Good afternoon, all. Gold and Black Live from various points across the globe. Brian Neubert and Gordon Jackson. Well, Gordon's in the background, but Tom Dienhart is joining us, making his way to West Lafayette for the big game tomorrow between Purdue and Northwestern. I want to thank our sponsors, of course, Triple X on the hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. Greg and Carrie have got tents outside in the parking lot. They do have some indoor dining. It's socially distanced, and they're trying to make the best of the situation, as we all are. Hilton Garden Inn also. Tomorrow's a big day. Stay HDI tonight. Trent is my agent.com. That being State Farm agent Trent Johnson. And Trent is also, I don't know if he's working a game tonight. I know they were making their way towards the state championship for high school football, but that will be, Trent will also, I would assume, is on the sidelines tomorrow for Purdue's Northwestern games. He's part of the chain gang as well. All right, Tom, we'll start with you. A lot of intrigue about this game. If we could sift out all the noise of what's going on with the pandemic, which we can do because that's our job to do that. This is going to be a really interesting football game, played maybe in some quite interesting conditions tomorrow when Northwestern travels to West Lafayette for that 5 o'clock start.
Yeah, it could be sloppy weather throughout the game, especially, I guess, in the latter parts of the game. So we'll see if that adverse weather does indeed unfold, guys. And as you said, Alan, a big ball game, the likes of which Ross-Ade Stadium has not hosted in years. At least in my mind, 2007, the last time a game of this importance as far as the standings go took place. Of course, that night, guys, number 4 Ohio State beat number 23 Purdue 23-7. So again, the winner of this game Saturday will take, I guess, pole position right in the Big Ten West race. And, you know, you got to like Purdue's chances, right? I know that this is going to be a tough foe. It's going to be probably the best, or at least the most experienced quarterback the defense has faced so far. And, guys, offensively for Purdue, we know what Aiden O'Connell can do. And, again, we've liked what we've seen from the ground game. But the offensive line for Purdue, while it's made strides, is going to get its sternest test yet in 2020, facing a very physical and a very tough and a very well-coached Northwestern defense.
Yeah, no question. And Purdue a little bit banged up in that offensive line. We'll get into that in a second. But Brian, you know, this is a game, we talked about Rondale Moore's debut in 2018. That was a big one, obviously, Purdue Northwestern to open the season. And Wisconsin is, we don't know exactly where they're going to be. They got to play Michigan tomorrow, and Graham Mertz sounds like he's going to play, but this COVID world really has us guessing all the time on exactly who's going to line up tomorrow, and just adds another level of intrigue for the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful early in the season, to be talking about such a pivotal game, but
yeah,
it feels like the season's been going on for a good year now.
Yeah,
if Purdue can get to 3-0 in the Big Ten West, Wisconsin's season's been, kind of deep sixth. Iowa's already a couple losses in the hole. I don't know if Nebraska's any good, so Purdue would be in a pretty nice spot here. And of course, the elephant in the room here is, what if the music stops and they can't go on? If you're at the top of the standings, can you claim a championship? I think that's probably unlikely at this point. I think they'll probably get the season in, but the last week or two haven't been terribly positive. It is a great opportunity for Purdue. Obviously, I think they've played pretty well to this point. They could play better, but they're good enough to be 2-0. If they're 3-0, I think they'll be sitting in a really nice spot here in the Big Ten West.
Tom, what do you make of the fact that the Vegas folks started Purdue as a favorite on the early line on Sunday or whenever they first came out? Then it's moved to Northwestern, a 2 or 3 point favorite now. So much, Northwestern's well coached. They've got a senior quarterback, an experienced quarterback who's had experience against Purdue. And they seem to do the things that the Wildcats tend to do. I mean, doesn't make it insurmountable by any stretch for Purdue, but certainly makes it a challenging game, and it would have been no matter what Northwestern's record is.
Yeah, no doubt, Alan. And again, Northwestern, if you remember last year, had a real tough season offensively, just a mess. very bad quarterback play. And you talked about Peyton Ramsey, of course. The Indiana grad transfer has really brought some stability to that position for Northwestern. He's a nice dual threat quarterback. Of course, two guys, Northwestern changed its offensive coordinator too. Mick McCall is out. Mike Bajakian is in. And again, this Wildcat offense has come to life. You couple that with the defense that guys has yet to allow a point in the second half of any of its 3 games this year. You can see why the Wildcats are off to this 3-0 start. So again, the challenge is very big for Purdue on both sides of the ball. And let's not forget about special teams as well. That's been an area that's sort of been a mixed bag for Purdue so far, right? J.D. Dellinger's been as good as advertised. The coverage teams have been good, but we're still waiting for the return game to come to life. And the punting has been inconsistent, to say the very least. So, again, that could be maybe the area that decides this game on Saturday. And also, too, guys, I was thinking about this today, talking to some people. We've yet to really see Jeff Brom dig into his bag of tricks this year, right? Could be interesting if maybe we see a little trickeration from Coach Brom on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be a storyline to watch. Weather is a factor. Purdue, whether that's fair to say, Brian, Purdue has struggled, I guess you could say. Certainly 2 poor performances in bad weather games that I can think of. Certainly the game at Minnesota in 18, and then obviously last year against Illinois.
Eastern Michigan.
And Eastern Michigan, that's right. So another loss. So, I mean, anything to make of that? And yet you got a tough-minded guy at quarterback in Aiden O'Connell that seems to play like he's got nothing to lose every time he plays. So what's the skinny there? How do you see that as a factor?
Well, Jeff Brom said the other day on his radio show that they seem self-aware enough to understand that their track record in bad weather isn't terribly positive. And they spent some time in the offseason working on it. Like they went outside when maybe they wouldn't have ordinarily gone outside when the weather was bad and whatnot. You have to, you have to be able to overcome that stuff if you want to be a consistent football team, especially in this part of the country. And they seem aware of it. They seem like they have tried to address it the best they can, but obviously you don't know until you get out there. I mean, I don't necessarily know what you can do to make balls more secure to grip, whatever it may be. But I think that Purdue is a little bit better built this season, to win ugly games. I think their running game with Xander Horvath, they've been better on the offensive line this year. I think they're a little bit better equipped to win kind of Big Ten bad weather rock fights, and they will certainly hope so. Get him out of here. So yeah, I just think Purdue is better suited to run the ball, play a little bit more physical at the line of scrimmage. That helps you in bad weather. It may not be a situation where I think part of the issue in the past for Purdue was that when you want to drop back and throw the football up the field the way they do, that obviously is a lot harder to do when it's wet. But Purdue, as much as they rely on David Bell and Aiden O'Connell and the passing game, I think they're a little bit better suited for that kind of thing with this particular team.
Tommy, injuries, as they do in any football season, whether you're in the middle of a pandemic or not, have come forth for Purdue. And whether we call Rondale Moore's situation an injury, exactly what the situation there. But George Karlaftis, hearing he may dress tomorrow, don't know that he'll play. Don't really know the situation. Of course, you've had some injuries on that offensive line. How big of an issue do you think that is? It's interesting that Purdue's offensive line has developed some depth, and it's going to have to be tested early on, one would think, Saturday evening.
Yeah, the offensive line has been able to absorb those 2 injuries that you alluded to, Al. And, of course, in the opener, we saw the redshirt freshman left guard, Cam Craig, leave the ball game with an injury. Jeff told us this week Craig has had surgery and is done for the year. Redshirt freshman Spencer Holstage has stepped in and done very well, guys. The staff really likes the kid. And then, of course, at center, you saw Sam Garvin, the junior, go down at Illinois, have to get carted off the field. Gus Hartwig, the true freshman sensation, steps in, plays almost the entire game after getting his feet wet the week before against Iowa. And, guys, the hype about Hartwig and what the staff thinks of him. So long story short, they've been able to absorb those losses on the line pretty well, guys. It's the George Karlaftis status and the Rondale Moore status that hinges more and continues to be murky for Purdue, guys. We'll see Saturday. We've heard a lot of different things. Maybe these guys will dress out. Jeff said yesterday, guys, they're going to be game time decisions. So all I can say is stay tuned when it comes to Karlaftis and Moore. King Daru as well. It sure would be nice if Purdue had another running back that could share the load with Xander Horvath. You certainly don't want to get number 40 hurt. And also, guys, one other personnel issue of note, just for people to be mindful of, Tyler Coyle, the UConn grad transfer, Jeff said, will suit up on Saturday. He could be a nice addition to this defense, guys, to contain that Northwestern run. Look for Coyle to work at an outside linebacker / safety spot in this position very similar to where we've seen Jalen Graham play this year.
Yeah, Brian, Rondale Moore is obviously a storyline. He always will be if he's anywhere close to being on the roster or being able to play. Here's a guy that is still projected to be a first-round draft pick next year, or the back end of the first round, at least by some. A lot on the mind, I'm sure, of a young man that we know his work ethic and know his ability to play when he is on the field. But all these things have to be coming to play. It's kind of hard to walk in his shoes of what he's thinking as he looks ahead to the final 5 regular season games of this season.
Yeah, let me collect my thoughts now that the cat is done chewing on the plastic bag behind me.
Right.
Yeah, obviously he's got a lot on the line this season, and I think you want everything to be optimal. He wants everything to be optimal before he goes out there. Perfectly understandable. The last thing you want is to, A, go out there and get hurt again, B, go out there at anything less than 100% and then put bad film out there for the NFL and all of a sudden hurt yourself by playing as opposed to helping yourself by playing. Perfectly understandable. It's not him being selfish. It's him being practical. Don't blame him one bit. Purdue's been able to win without him so far. Obviously, he would make their offense that much better if they get him. That being said, if you have Rondale Moore and you're trying to feed him the ball as often as possible, has David Bell to this point gotten the ball as much as he's gotten it? And that's worked out pretty well. So it's it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works when you have 2 go-to guys, when you have 2 elite receivers, how you manage to keep the ball in their hands as much as you'd like to get the ball in the hands of players of that caliber. Purdue's going to have a lot of options. Aiden O'Connell might have one of the best jobs in college football here once Rondale Moore comes back. We'll give opposing defensive coordinator. It will give opposing defensive coordinators a lot more to worry about.
Stay on the show.
He has a special taste for earworms.
Oh, okay.
And if he gets them, they're destroyed, and I can't let that happen. A tandem of David Bell and Rondale Moore would give opposing defensive coordinators in the Big Ten fits. I mean, that would be so much to have to game plan for, and that would affect defense's ability to, address everything to the level they want to address it. It would open up the running game. It would open up third receivers, open up the tight ends. As I said, when Rondale Moore opted back in, every player on that offense got better when he just cast his lot back in with Purdue because of not just the elite player he is, but the elite decoy he can be too, because he will have everyone's eyes on him at all times, as will David Bell. And there are only so many eyes to go around. So it'll be really intriguing to see how that tandem really affects the overall complexion of games once Rondale Moore does get out there.
Wind, rain, all that stuff, though, doesn't sound like a great spot to come and play your first game. But again, who knows on that front. But yeah, I think anybody that likes to watch college football, we said this every week, wants to see a guy like Rondale Moore run around. That we know. David Bell has been amazing. Milton, Wright, who you wrote about today, Tom. Yeah, he's really been a wonderful, not a big surprise, but we knew he had talent coming in, but it's really coming to the fore.
Yeah, he's done well. He's really, talking to Jamarcus Shepard, you get the sense that Milton's matured. That happens when go from your freshman year to your sophomore year, on and off the field. You grow up a little bit, your work ethic gets sharpened, and I think we're seeing a lot of those fruits of that labor and maturity pay off for Milton Wright in his true sophomore season. Really stepped up to be that complement to David Bell, and to Brian's point too. Could you imagine, you have Bell and Wright on the outside with Rondale Moore in the slot? I mean, my goodness, like you said, who wouldn't want to be Aiden O'Connell working with those weapons? So yeah, it's an offense with great possibilities. Even without Rondale Moore, guys, we've seen a lot of great things, right? I mean, if you look at the stats, the number one passer in the Big Ten is Aiden O'Connell. Again, he's doing this without Rondale Moore, transcendent talent. So again, that matchup, sadly, between the Purdue offense and the Northwestern defense, that's going to be strength on strength. And turnovers are always a big factor in any game. And guys, Northwestern has done a great job generating turnovers this year. They already have 9 takeaways, more than any Big Ten team. They're number 2 in the Big Ten in turnover margin as well. To Purdue's point, they also have done a better job at generating turnovers this year too. So again, that's going to be another X factor that everybody's going to want to keep an eye on when this game kicks off at 5 Eastern time Saturday.
Brian, I was going to lead that into the question of what you make of the Purdue defense. Obviously, Purdue has given up 24 points and 20 points and 2 wins and have done the job, given up a fair amount of yards. What do you make of Bob Diaco's crew so far?
I think it's been up and down. I thought they played well against Iowa. I thought they didn't play as well against Illinois, against a stunted offense, but half that game was played with George Karlaftis, so there's a little bit of an asterisk on that. I think they've tackled well. I don't see a whole lot of, consequential breakdowns on their part. I think those are positive developments. The most positive development is when they've had to be good. When they've needed stops, they've gotten stops, whether it was getting the ball back and then shutting the game down against Iowa, or all the red zone stops they got against Illinois. When they've needed to get a stop, they've been able to get a stop, and that's pretty encouraging. I think there was always going to be an adjustment period going to a new defense where you're trying to do a lot of different things, and I don't see any real situations where somebody has no idea what they're doing or somebody's lined up wrong. I'm sure some of that stuff has happened, just not readily apparent to the outside observer, but so far so good. I think, it stands to reason to suggest they can get better as they get more experience. I think, it's always a little bit easier to guard more one-dimensional sorts of offenses as opposed to ones that really present a lot of problems for you. I don't know where Northwestern would exactly fall in that. But I know they're not going to take a lot of risks, things like that. But I think, Purdue really needs George Karlaftis. Whether they have him this weekend, we don't know or not, but I think he's such an important part of that defense. Having that one singular game-changing pass rusher opens up your whole playbook on defense. And that's obviously something to watch. But otherwise, I think, there shouldn't be a whole lot of concern with that defense in terms of their ability to, play winning football.
All right, got about 30 seconds left in this segment. Evan Boudreau will join us for segment 2 here shortly. But Tom, give us your parting shot. What do you think we'll see tomorrow night in Ross-Ade?
Well, key for Purdue to win is going to be, I think, to get a lead. I mean, maybe that's an obvious point, but again, to my point here on this is, if they can get on Northwestern, get up by 10 points, 13 points, you have to make Peyton Ramsey throw the football over 25 times a game. While he's a veteran signal caller, guys, his strength is not throwing the football 30, 40 times a game like it is for Aiden O'Connell. So don't let Northwestern get that run game established. Get a lead, make Northwestern's offense get out of its comfort zone, and have to throw the football. I think that could lead to some turnovers for Purdue, setting up that Purdue offense with some good field position. And I like Purdue's chances to get out of this thing in a close ball game that, just like last year, I think could come down in the fourth quarter very late.
All right. Well, we'll have predictions on the site here shortly. And we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow in Ross-Ade Stadium. It'll be an interesting day. Okay, we're going to take a short break. Bring in Evan Boudreau, who will be our second segment guest. Dr. Tim Ratliff will be on in our third segment. We're talking a little bit of Purdue Center for Cancer Research, which Evan Boudreau is on the board. And Dr. Tim Ratliff is from the chair of the Purdue Center for Cancer Research. So we'll talk a little bit there. But Evan also's got some input. He's played in the bubble as a basketball guy with the men of Mackey, and we'll hit that and more here in a couple of minutes. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a couple of minutes on Gold and Black Live.